you awkward transition from camera guy.
Hey guys, this is Sean. Why don't you introduce yourself, Sean?
Hello YouTube, I'm Sean Smith from the Junction City both debate and forensics team. For forensics, I'm one of the two Lincoln Douglas captains, and for policy, I think I'm probably one of the top debaters this next year.
Yeah, Sean is my policy partner, and like he said, I'm also one of the Lincoln Douglas captains, but he's the other one. We both went to the CFL national competition this year. Why don't you start by telling us how you did, Sean?
Well, personally, I went 2 and 3 at the competition, which considering, well, the past experiences of the Junction City forensics team period, that's pretty good, because last year, the only team that went 0 and 5. So 2 and 3 is pretty good. I think the only issues I primarily had was I wasn't exactly completely filled in with the negative. And my last round, I lost the flip, and I had to do negative, which kind of blows. But regardless, I had pretty fun. DC was awesome.
Yeah, DC really was awesome. I mean, just going around looking at the monuments and all that type of stuff, it was a good time. I went 3-2 personally. The team Sean was talking about last year that went 0-5, that was me and my previous PFD partner. But this year I did LD and went 3-2, so pretty happy about how the team did this year. We actually had 5 people go to nationals. I mean, other schools might say, wow, that's pretty crappy, but for our school, you know, compared to where we were last year when we had like barely anyone do anything, we're doing hella good this year. And next year, we're going to have 2 forensics classes, one for argumentation, one for oral interpretation, so we're really excited about that. But let's get down to like the nitty gritty right now, because we're not talking about forensics anymore, we're talking about policy debate, because in Kansas, they're 2 separate things. So I guess we'll start by talking about the resolution. The resolution this year is resolved, the United States federal government should substantially increase its exploration and development of space and/or development of space beyond the Earth's mesosphere. So, any words in there, Sean, that are really strange to you that are probably going to change a lot of debates?
Well, I'm pretty sure that just like last year, the word substantially is really going to come into effect. Because if you do something but you don't do it to what someone considers substantial or some crap like that, they're going to call you out and pull some topicality, which is just going to waste more of your time on the affirmative. Another thing that is probably there, which I'm really thankful for, is the word mesosphere. Because if it wasn't there, then I'm pretty sure we'd run into some apps that are like, oh, we're increasing planes in the sky. That's outside our atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
Certain layers, but not all the way out to the mesosphere. That's the issue. I'm happy about that, though.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, I think substantial, I mean, because what I kind of saw last year was that substantial either came into one of 2 forms. It's either important, like the president getting killed, you know, that's substantial because of his reputation, because of what he represents. And then there's substantial numerically. I think all the negative teams are going to try to limit the affirmative numerically by saying you need a certain amount of money, you need a certain amount of development, otherwise it's not substantial. While the app will kind of focus on, hey, this is substantial because it's important, not necessarily because it's numeric. And also the word beyond, I think, is really important because that's like basically saying anything beyond the mesosphere is topical, basically, which is crazy because you know how far space is, it's limitless. So there are literally no limits on how far you can go. I mean, there's feasibility and, you know, costs associated with that, but it's always going to be topical as long as it's beyond the mesosphere. And the mesosphere is not, I mean, it's not like a ton of stuff goes on in the mesosphere besides like flying planes and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, affirmatives. And also the and/or thing, I think is going to be kind of fun because you can either just do development of space, or you can just do exploration, or you can do both at the same time, which I think that's going to be interesting to see what type of affirmatives come out from that. But what are some of the things you expect to see coming into
Well, personally, I know for sure that there's probably going to be a lot of moon exploration apps, which more or less means we're going to go there, we're going to colonize the moon, we're going to farm it, etc., etc., etc. Excuse me. Regardless. And then I know for certain we're going to see a privatization counterplan. Another thing I'm expecting to see is that we're going to look for another Earth-like planet far outside our universe for us to inhabit, to escape the Earth, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then probably the last thing I'm expecting to see is just a general exploration. Oh, also Mars. That's there too.
Mars, yeah.
Mars.
Yeah. In addition to that, I think we're also going to see a lot of domestic things, like on the Earth, you know, when it plays into the space program, because although the space program does have to do with that, but I think you're gonna see a lot of cooperation things where people say, well, by expanding the space program, we need to include China or we need to include India in this, you know. So I think we're gonna see a lot of political stuff, you know, on the Earth, as well as the space affirmatives. But so I guess we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do this year, or what we plan to do this year. Well, first of all, we're going to a debate camp pretty soon, right, John?
Oh yeah, on I believe it's July.
Yeah.
July 10th, we're heading out to the Kansas Wasteland.
Wesleyan.
What that word? University for a week-long debate camp. It's pretty jam-packed. It's going more or less every day from when we wake up to when we go to sleep of just straight lectures and straight work, and it's going to be really fun. Dang.
Yeah.
Whoops. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think the debate camp's going to be cool because especially they're letting us have all the evidence afterwards. It's going to be in an online database, and we get 500 free sheets of paper while we're there. We're going to bring a couple tubs, you know, start compiling some basic evidence and stuff like that. And we're actually starting some research now. We just went to the library and picked up some really neat books. Sean, what did you actually get for your books?
Of the two books I got, well, I'm going to talk about that last one. It's more interesting. First book I got was Lost in Space, the Fall of NASA, which more or less is just describing, well, I haven't really read through it yet, but the intro in front of the book is more or less just saying that this book is describing after NASA, well, reached the moon, they kind of just started to fall apart. It's just describing each one of those.
Okay.
And the second book I have now is Return to the Moon, which is really going to be helpful for us because it has many, many different experts in here talking specifically about both policy decisions, there's that word, and other decisions, why we should return to the moon, and the fact that we can right now with what we have, scientifically and economically.
Okay, and I got this one called The Survival Imperative Using Space to Protect the Earth. I picked up this one because I think a lot of people are going to say that we need to leave the Earth because the Earth is fading, you know, climate change, global warming, the Earth's not going to be around forever. So, you know, going to the moon, which is something Sean and I are definitely considering for our app, we're going to need to look this up because it's probably going to be one of our advantages. And then I grabbed one called Voyage to the Milky Way, the Future of Space Exploration, because it has a lot about the future and how we can achieve it, you know, like solar sails and all sorts of different rockets and how we can actually live on the moon, which I think is really neat. So, yeah, we picked up a few books. We're going to try to read these before camp if possible, but I guess now we'll kind of just go into what we've been thinking of for our app. So, Sean and I have been kind of thinking of a standard case. We don't want to be too squirrely throughout the season. You know, probably at state and maybe at nationals we'll be a little bit more squirrely about it, but we want to be really standard. So last year we went turkey T&Ws, and that just turned out to be so good. You know, we won almost all of our apps with that, and really it was hard to beat. So this year we're going to go with the moon. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, Sean?
Well, first we got a tip from Justin's dad over here about this element called helium-3. The interesting thing about helium-3 is it's very, very rare on the Earth, but if it's used properly, which scientists think that they can develop the technology to use it properly, it's the next step in energy. It makes nuclear energy, well, look inferior, because not only A, does it do this more or less more than, well, uranium can, but the leftovers aren't dangerous to the Earth, which means it is the next step in energy. So we decided to go out and look for places where helium-3 is, which led us to, the moon has a good supply, and it's pretty close. So that's why we're deciding maybe we should spin a app that has, more or less we're going to colonize and mine out the moon of helium-3, with helium-3 being our primary advantage since it is the next step in energy. Anything else you gotta add?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the moon is it's not far-fetched. You know, a lot of affirmatives are going to be like, we should go all the way to Saturn, or, you know, we should do all this weird stuff. But that's going to cost a lot of money, and judges are less likely to buy in on that. Whereas we've been to the moon, we know how to, you know, navigate the moon and stuff like that. And experts say it's totally feasible to build a moon base and to mine the moon. But there's also like other advantages from going to the moon. I mean, you know, the first being rallying the United States behind a central cause. You know, the space race in the 60s was really important for our country. It united us in a time of conflict. People might say it might spur another Cold War, nuclear war, but really I don't think that's the case. And we have a lot of, we're going to find cards that, you know, kind of say the same thing as that. But, you know, rallying us behind a cause in an economic recession is really important. You know, when everyone's down and we're no longer patriotic anymore, we need something to unite us. Also, in addition to that, strictly the monetary increase that we'll get by mining helium-3. I mean, Russia's already trying to do it. China's trying to do it. Russia's actually going to the moon strictly to get helium-3. I mean, this is the next energy. You know, we need this because there's no waste generated from it. We're running out of resources. It's pretty much the only option. And then, of course, the environment thing, you know, having a moon base and the fact that the moon can be a jumping off point to get to Mars. I mean, there's just so many advantages for going to the moon. And really, it's hard to debate against it because, you know, I'm sure we'll see a lot of weird arguments, you know, against our case, but I think it's going to be pretty easy to defend. But that's all I really have about the moon. Do you have anything else to add to that, Sean? Or?
Oh, I'm just going to support the last thing you said, that it's a really, really solid app. There's a lot of advantages and almost no harms, which is the main reason why we're doing it. Because, like last year, the two strongest apps were undoubtedly Turkey and Afghanistan, especially Afghanistan. How can you argue against Afghanistan? That's pulling some crazy stuff out from your evidence bit. This year we're doing the moon, which more or less is probably going to be this year's Afghanistan. That's the main thing we're trying to get behind here.
Yeah, well, that's all we have for this video. We'll let you know how camp goes and, you know, tell you a little bit more about our affirmative case. We'll probably start bringing more videos about the moon specifically after we read our books. That's what we're going to be focused on the next couple of weeks. But thanks, and thanks for Sean for joining me this time so you guys can have an extra voice instead of my boring voice. So, alright, thanks guys.
Bye-bye. Cue awkward camera guide.
I'll cut that out.